What's up, my people, and welcome back to Turo Tuesdays. My name is Diamond, and this is episode 3. This is where I'm going to share with you 5 things that I learned during my journey in looking, buying, prepping, and listing my very first vehicle on Turo. If you're new here and you're catching this show for the first time, Turo Tuesdays is designed in a way where you can start with episode 1 and walk through each episode in order, and you can set your business up right alongside me. So if you haven't done so already, go back to episode 1, check that out where we talked about the mindset and getting in this business. Episode 2 was about how to structure the business and everything that went into getting the business set up. Well, now we're at episode 3 and the business is structured. I'm ready to go and get the first car. So I want to jump right into it. I don't want to waste any of your time. As soon as you get some value out of this, I want you to click that like button, and at the end, share this video with a friend. But let's jump right into it. The first thing I learned is patience. You have to have patience. If you watch the other videos, you know that I'm setting this business up and I'm doing it all in cash. There's no car notes, there's no loans. So I'm buying in cash. I'm setting everything under an LLC so the cars will be registered over there. The whole thing about this is you have to be patient. And actually, I don't care how you're buying your car, you have to be patient, especially with the market doing what it's doing right now. The used car market is up. Used cars are appreciating. New cars are selling over MSRP. It's just really a bad time to be buying cars. And so with this, you got to be patient. Now for me, since I'm buying used, I'm looking at online marketplaces, things like Facebook Marketplace and Auto Trader. I'm looking, and I have to be on there every single day because there are some good deals that I've seen and I've actually missed out on because I was slow to the trigger. So you want to be looking every single day, have your cash ready, and when you see something, don't be messaging 100 little questions and all that. Jump on it. Get in the car and go to it and start looking at the cars in person and get all your questions answered on site. Because while I was over there asking questions about the title and the history and all, somebody else was already there looking at the car and it was gone. So I have to have patience. Another reason for this patience is there are some requirements to list a car on Turo. You need a car that's no older than 12 years. It has to have less than 130,000 miles. And for me, my budget for this first car was $5,000. So when you put all that together, my market and what I can buy is super slim. And if you watched the last video, you know that after I did my market research, I came to the conclusion that I wanted to put a Fiat 500 down on the platform as my first car. That's the car that I believe would do well. So that's the car that I was looking for. So that helped because having the focus down to just one make, one model across a few different year ranges, that made my search a lot easier. So before you even look at buying a car, make sure you've done your research and did what we talked about in episode 2 so that you know what you're looking at and you have a small, narrow list of cars that you want to buy. So now I'm on there and I'm looking every single day and I'm seeing things, but there is some trash out there. There is some straight up garbage that people are selling. We'll jump into that a little later in the video. But all of this means that I couldn't buy the first car I see, and you probably won't buy the first car you see. So you have to be on there and you have to have that patience in mind. The last thing you want to do is buy a car that's going to cost a lot of money. Because again, this car is about to be in and out. People are going to rent this thing and no telling where they're going to go. They might run it all the way up to your mileage cap or even over the mileage cap. So you want to have something that's going to be safe. I know I was looking for something that I would be comfortable in, something that if I had to drive it across the country, it would be no question. I would jump in it, no problem. That's the kind of car that I wanted to have on the platform. And I know that it's out there. So I just had to be patient. The second thing that I learned that saved me a ton of time and money is that once I found something that was worth jumping in the car and going to look at, once I got there, the first thing I want to do is do a quick look around the car, but really quick. But what I really want to do is go ahead and grab that VIN and run the vehicle history. So I was using Carfax where you can buy, 1, 3, or 5 reports, but run the vehicle history just so I can see if it's been in a flood or a reported flood or a reported accident. I want to see how many owners it had. I want to see, personally, one thing I'm looking for is not just how many owners it has, but I'm looking at the turnover. How many miles did each owner put into it? Because if the car has 5 owners and each one only had it for a year and didn't put a lot of miles on it, well, I mean, we're talking about a Fiat. That tells me might want to look harder or really look somewhere else, because why are people getting rid of this car? So vehicle history is super important. And the cars you put on Turo have to have a clean title. So this is one way that you could verify that the title is legit. And something I've learned is you can't go off of the title that's presented to you, because it could be a clean title that they physically have, but it also could be because they haven't went and got the new title, but it's on record as a total loss. So this is why checking the history is important. The second thing that saved me a lot of time, and it'll definitely save you time and money, is you want to check for recalls. And again, this requires you to grab the VIN, you jump on the National Highway website. I'll link that down in the description. But you put your VIN in, and this is going to let you know if there's any open recalls. Because with Turo, when you put a car on a platform, if there is an open recall, what they'll do is immediately notify you. And if it's out on a rental, they'll notify the guest, and it will delist the car. And you cannot list that car again. You will not get any more bookings until you resolve that recall. So by checking this up front before I even put a lot of effort into looking at the car, this helps me save time. Now, I found a few cars that I was interested in that actually had some open recalls. Now, do that mean that I just don't buy the car? Absolutely not. Because an open recall is not the end of it. That's just something you want to be aware of. So if you find a car with an open recall, what I did was I would call up the dealer. Just call up a local dealer and ask them, hey, here's the VIN. Can you check this recall? They'll verify and say, oh yeah, we see it has an open recall. The next question, which is the important question, is, do you have the parts on hand to resolve this recall? And that is the question that you want an answer to. Because the last thing you want to do is buy a car that's perfect, is ready to go, only to realize that there's an open recall and the parts are back ordered for 4 to 6 weeks. Or even worse, the manufacturer have not resolved the recall, so they don't have a solution for the recall. You do not want to get caught in this boat, because you will be out of the money. You will have a car that you cannot list on a platform. Therefore, you cannot make any money. So checking for open recalls was huge. And the last thing that you want to check for, and I did this here, is that in the state of Florida, at least, you could check the state website by using the VIN. And this came in as crucial information when I was buying my first car, because the first car that I was picking up was at a mechanic's garage, and more on that later. But by checking the state website, I was able to verify how many owners the car had, the mileage, whether the title was clean, and if there were any liens on the car. So that was another piece of information that was helpful for me. Now, I know in Florida it's easy. You can do a Google search for VIN check Florida, and boom, pops right up. It's the official government website, and I'm sure other states have something like that as well. But that's just another sanity check before you put a lot of effort into buying a car that's going to be of no use to you. The third thing I did on my journey was look over the car. Now, for me, I'm comfortable with looking at cars, and I feel confident that I can find, problems with the car, things that would be very costly, things that would make me not want to buy the car. I feel confident that I can do that. If you don't have that confidence, you don't have it, then that's fine. Then you want to take a mechanic friend, an uncle, a brother, or a sister, or a cousin, somebody who know about cars, who can look these cars over with you, or you want to take it to an independent shop and pay a fee and get the car inspected before you purchase the vehicle. Because remember, you don't know how often this car is going to be driven. You don't know how many miles people are going to be putting on it. All you know is you're about to put this car out there for strangers to get behind the wheel, and they're going to be driving it as much and as hard as they want to. You're not going to have any control over that. So you want to make sure that you buy a car that's mechanically sound. It's not going to cost you a lot of money. And I cannot tell you how many cars I looked at where the person was like, oh, it's a great car, it runs amazing, nothing's wrong with it, it's perfect, I just need to get something bigger or whatever. And you get there and the tires are bald, it's leaking oil, coolant, smoking, half the buttons on the inside doesn't work. It's all kind of issues with these cars, and they're passing them off as good. Or the other thing I had to overcome, and you want to be on the lookout for, is you show up to a car and it's pristine. It is clean, like it just came off the showroom floor. And what that is they've done an amazing job at detailing the car. And for me, that's always a red flag, because I'm thinking, nobody does this. What are you trying to cover up? And I actually ran into a car where the car was clean, it was good to go, nothing was wrong, no lights on the dash or anything. But when I plugged my computer into it and read the codes, I saw that they had just reset the check engine light, and the code that was in the computer, because that was still stored, was saying that the transmission module was bad. I didn't want that car. I didn't want to put that effort into the car. The car looked like it was amazing. And the guy looked at me like I was a fool or something when I mentioned that this ain't it. And that's all I would tell him. This ain't it, man. Sorry. I don't need to explain to you. This guy want to get more information from me. Why? What? Well, because you just reset the computer, so you know something wrong with the car, and you're trying to pass it off as a good running car with nothing wrong with it. So that's not it. I'm not spending my money here, and off I go. It's simple as that. So you want to look these cars over and not just take a glimpse. And I don't care if you're buying from a dealer or a private seller. It really don't matter. You want to look the car over, because you can buy a good car from anywhere and you can buy a crappy car from anywhere. And through my searching, I found both good and bad cars between dealers and private sellers. So there is no golden rule here other than take your time and look over the car. Now, before we jump into the fourth thing, I want you to do me a favor and click that like button. That lets me know, that lets YouTube know that you're getting value out this video, and automatically pull in like-minded folks. So go ahead, take a second, click that like button, and while you're at it, go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so, because I got more gems and jewels to be dropping for you. So make sure you get that done immediately. Now, let's jump right into the next thing. And this number 4 is where everything is good. This is the fun part. Now, you're ready. You've bought the car, and now it's time to prep the car. So after searching high and low for actually a few weeks, I come across a car that was decent. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't great. Now, I mentioned it in one of my other videos here that I was not looking for something that was perfect. I'm not afraid to put a little work into the car to make it what I needed to be, but I also don't want to buy a money pit. So I actually came across a Fiat 500 on Facebook Marketplace. It had been listed on the platform for several weeks, which was a red flag, but I decided to go check it out. I pull up to the car and it's at a mechanic shop. Red flag. Somebody done put a lot of money in his car and it's still not right, and they just want to get rid of it. But I go and I'm already there, and so I take a look at the car, and it actually runs pretty decent. It's overall a decent looking car. I immediately find some issues, and the mechanic who was there, he just out the gate told me like, hey man, this, and this is wrong with the car. I'm like, okay, cool. So I go through and confirm everything he said was right. They wanted $4,500 for the car. Remember, my budget was $5,000. So as I'm looking at it, I'm adding up the parts and what I need to replace, and I'm seeing things that is not really mechanical on the car, but some things that I would want to have replaced before I was comfortable putting somebody in the car. And so I'm like, I can't do it at $4,500. Long story short, the guy ends up selling me the car at $4,000, and he go ahead and replace all the mechanical parts that was damaged. And he seemed like a stand-up dude. We had a good conversation, so I agreed. Left a deposit, told me to come back in about a week. He'll have everything squared away. Boom, all was good. Now, I own this car, and now it's time to prep. Now it's time to get it ready for Turo and put it on the platform. So this is where I'm going through and not just worrying about the mechanic stuff. I'm doing the oil changes. I'm doing everything I need to make sure that it's like solid and you can drive it across country. But then I'm also looking at visual things that's just old and worn. I replaced things like the headliner. It was just super dirty and beyond the point or effort for me to try to clean it. So I got that put in. I did a few other things to it as well. And then right when I was thinking everything was ready to go, the car is good, one of the things that the mechanic replaced was the AC compressor. And as I'm driving the car, just testing it out, it started squealing and smoking. And I'm like, ugh. I popped the hood, check it out. Long story short, I don't want to throw this guy under the bus because he really was a solid dude. And I know he put a used compressor on there. I don't know if the compressor he put on there was bad or if he didn't put any oil in the compressor when he changed it. But long story short, that compressor burnt up. And so now I had to go and buy the parts, do it. But I was able to do the work myself. So that was, it really wasn't that expensive. Just a couple $100, put a whole new AC system in there. And now the car is ready to go. Now, a bonus tip here is when you're prepping the car and when you're buying these cars, make sure you're tracking your expenses. And I'm not talking about the big stuff. I bought the car for $4,000 and taxes and registration was, no, track everything, because you want to make sure that you know exactly how much money you're putting in these cars, when they're going to become profitable, and you want to have that ongoing records for not only your profit and loss, but also for tax purposes as well. So make sure you're tracking every single expense. So I got this car prepped, ready, and it was good to go. Now is the time where I'm ready to list it, and that takes me right into number 5. The 5th thing I learned on this journey was all about listing the cars on Turo. Now, there's a lot of folks talking about Turo and getting the cars out there, but there are some details that's missing when it comes to listing your car. So the short version is you want to have the car in pristine condition. You want to have it clean and ready to go. You want the car in its Sunday's best because you want to get some good pictures. And that's the very first thing that you want to do. You want it to go out, sunrise, get some pictures, sunset, get some good pictures. You want to go out on a nice day or whatever kind of background is going to match your car. And that's something you want to think about is where can you take some pictures that's going to give the car a little attitude, because you want to make the car stand out. You want it to pop. You want people to scroll through the listing on the phone and boom, stop at yours because of what they see, because that's the very first thing that they're going to see. So make sure you get some good pictures. The second thing was writing up the description. And this, to be honest, I kept mine short and sweet. Say a little bit about the car, get them excited about it, and that was pretty much it. One thing that I would say you don't want to do is put out a bunch of rules and don't do this and this is my personal car and all this stuff. Like, people don't want to hear that stuff. You want to think about the experience that you have at a traditional rental car company. When you go to any of the big companies and list and buy a car or rent a car from them, what is that experience like? And you want to kind of mimic that, but here is where it gets good, because this is not the big rental agency. This is me. This is you. This is us renting our cars. So now you can personalize it a little bit and add that personal touch that you can't get at a corporate location. And so that's the kind of stuff that you want to have in your listing, and that's the kind of stuff that you want to come out through your pictures as well as through your description. And after you do that, now it's just time to price the car, set up your discounts, set up your delivery options, and set up the fees that's associated with that. Now, my strategy for pricing the car was pretty straightforward. I was a new guy on the block. My area is super saturated, a lot of cars. Even the Fiat is not like something that's rare or hard to find. It's several of them. It's at least a dozen of them in my area. So my strategy was, I'm just going to jump on there and turn on auto pricing. Turo has a feature where you can let them automatically price your car and you're good to go. And so that's exactly what I did. Something you want to be careful with, though, is that, one, you have to understand that their auto pricing is going to be the lowest of the low. And by default, they'll set up some discounts. So you can give people a 3-day discount, a 7-day discount, and an early bird discount. And these percentages could be from 5 to 30%. So you want to make sure that you're paying attention to what percentage you have on these discounts. Because if you turn on auto pricing and you have the early bird discount and a 3-day discount, or a 7-day if they rent that for 7 days, now you got these 2 discounts kicking in. What you're going to make as far as your profit on that rental is going to be a lot less than what your daily advertised rate is. Now, and you also keep in mind that Turo is going to take a percentage of the rental based off the insurance plan that you pick. So it's a lot that goes into the pricing piece, but for me, I just wanted to get some rentals in, and I was trying to get All-Star as fast as possible, so I decided to just let them go, and I just want to test out like my pickup and delivery methods. I wanted to make sure everything was ironed out. So those first few rentals was really just going to be a learning curve for me, and what I found out is also for the guests, because a lot of your guests are new, but that was the strategy. And then as I got some experience under my belt, I knew I would tweak the pricing, tweak the listing a bit, the discounts and everything to kind of, maximize my profits. But that's some of the things that I had to do to get the car listed and ready to go. So now you have it. 5 things that I learned in getting the car up and running. So the next time you see me, we'll be diving into some of the numbers. I'll be showing you what I learned during my first few rentals. We're going to see what I made, what I lost. We're going to learn a lot in that video. So you definitely want to make sure that you're subscribed to the channel and that you're here for Turo Tuesdays, because you're going to be able to walk through right with me with these episodes and get your business up and running. And I'm going to let you know everything that I got going on. So make sure your notifications are turned on. And until next time, my name is Diamond. Peace.